fourth Lunch and Learn with Dr. Albanese, and this one is very appropriate with the holidays upcoming, so it's the Stress Reduction Seminar, and I'm pleased to turn it over to Dr. Michael Albanese once again. Thank you.
All right. Well, good afternoon. Okay. We have an intimate crowd, but you're all spread out. That's okay. All right. Well, as Jay mentioned, today we are going to talk about stress. The title of today's talk is called Stress Reduction, and it's kind of a catchy phrase, and that's why we named it that, because people would have some idea of what the topic is about. I think more appropriately it would be titled something in terms of healthy adaptation, but people would look at that title and say, what in the world is he going to talk about? So I think, today in terms of stress, most people see stress as a person that stresses them out, a project, a time of year. Stress is all these things or all these people, but really stress is much more than that. And stress isn't any of those things. So I think it's important, I've been here a few times and I've talked about our mission and definitions of health, but I think it's important to kind of regroup, especially with this topic, because stress in reality is simply a health condition. We can define stress as many things, and we see so many different conditions that we're treated for every day, but the reality is they come down to stress. So I think it's important to start out with some definitions, and one of my goals today is to help you create new definitions. The first thing we do when we hear new information is to take it in, and then the second step is to ponder on it. We question it. We evaluate it. Is this congruent with my values and my information? And then thirdly, we accept it or we reject it. So today we're going to talk about stress in probably a way that most of you have not, prior to this anyway, thought about stress. So I want you to just keep an open mind, because I hope that by the end of this we'll create new definitions and new ideas about the concepts and information that we're going to talk about. And when we talk about stress, we talk about the health conditions that stress can cause. I'm not talking about people out there and how people are always stressed. We talk in broad terms. People are stressed. People get heart conditions because of stress. This is you. I'm talking to you and about you, about your wives, your husbands, your family, your friends. This isn't just people out there. This is you. So in terms of defining stress and to setting some new definitions, I think it's appropriate first to define health. Health, because you can't define stress without health. Health is your body's ability to constantly adapt to the changes that occur inside and outside the body. Now, if you look at a definition of stress, we can actually go on from that and say optimal function. Mental, emotional, physical, your body optimally functioning. If we look at the definition of stress, stress is any adverse stimulus to your body that causes an imbalance or a lack of homeostasis. Okay? Your body's inability to adapt to changes that occur to it, which is basically the opposite of health, how we define health. So stress in and of itself cannot be defined without defining health. If we don't have a definition of health, you can't define stress. And that's why stress is really a health issue, not a person, an event, or project. So when we look at, and last time I was here, I named a bunch of different health conditions, the top 10 health conditions. And I want to just revisit that. We have heart disease, cancer, death by properly prescribed medication is the third leading cause of death. Strokes, lung disease, diabetes, homicides, suicides, AIDS, accidents. These are the top 10 causes of death. The vast majority of these are related to lifestyle. More appropriately, poor lifestyle choices. The American Cancer Institute says in their conservative estimates, based on their information, about 60% of the cancers are preventable if healthier lifestyle choices are made. 90% of the heart disease can be eliminated based on healthier lifestyle choices. Now, the reason why I start out like this is because we're going to talk about stress and talk about the physiological effects of your body or on your body, and see that a lot of these health conditions that we treat people for are actually the result of stress or unhealthy stress. Would you say stress is healthy or unhealthy? Unhealthy? Okay. So if it's unhealthy, our body doesn't try, our natural state is health, right? Can we agree on that? And our body isn't going to do anything to itself to harm itself. So why would we have stress? Why would we have stress? Why would we have the ability to create stress? I'm sorry? Because we're married? Is that what you said? No.
Other people or other things that impose on you.
Really? Okay.
You allow it to impose.
Or I allow it to impose.
Okay.
We all allow it to impose.
Yeah.
See,
If everything went my way, it'd be great.
went your way. Okay.
Everything great for all.
You sound like my wife. Okay.
In general, everybody, if everything,
If-
somebody pulled out in front of you, and nobody, whatever it is.
So for example, you're driving to work and someone cuts you off, pulls out in front of you. That stresses you out, right?
So it upset me.
Because they did that to you, right? Okay. That's an interesting scenario. Have you ever thought about that person in the other car? Maybe.
It didn't work out well for them either.
Right. No, but this is interesting because this is how we see stress. That person in that car, that person could have just gotten a call that their wife had a heart attack. But see, we see that as they cut me off. That person did that to me intentionally. Right? And it's interesting, if everything goes everybody's way, we're all different. So we all view the world differently based on our experiences and the information that we have. So the idea that, and I think it's a great idea that everyone should see things my way, right? But the reality of that is probably never going to happen. Look, I don't have to leave my house to have an experiment on that, okay, and prove that theory wrong, right? But here's the thing, that's the way stress comes about. That's the way we see stress. Now, stress, we all say not healthy, right? So why do we have stress? I'm going to go back to our ancestors. I talked a little bit about this last time with nutrition, or whenever we did nutrition talk. Stress is healthy. Stress is healthy. There's something called the fight or flight response, okay? So, fight or flight? Fight or flight, okay? Now, stress response, okay? Go back to when we were living in caves, okay, 10,000 years ago, okay, 1,000 years ago. You come out of your cave and you see a tiger. That's stress, right? Am I going to live? So you get out of that, your body goes through this fight or flight response. Now, what does that mean? Now, your brain perceives things. Everything is interpreted through your brain, your nervous system. Part of your brain called the limbic system. Okay, I'm going to get into this in a little bit. But your brain perceives that event, that situation. Tiger. You go back to your file on tiger and say, not good, right? Unless I'm eating it. So that causes a response or a reaction. Okay? The reaction is, I'm going to leave, I'm going to flight, or I'm going to fight. Tiger, I'm going to leave. Okay? Because all we had back then was a club. Not going to help me with a tiger. So we leave. Now what happens when we leave? Our body goes through this response and reaction. Your brain perceives that tiger. It increases your heart rate. Causes constriction of blood vessels. Right? So your heart beats, blood pressure goes up, heart beats faster. Dilates your bronchioles, so more oxygen can be delivered through your body. Now, we need energy to do that. So, where do we have energy? We store a lot of glucose, a lot of sugar in our liver. So now you have this process called insulin resistance. When that happens, your liver is told, release a lot of that sugar. Get it going through the blood so it can be delivered to all the muscles and tissues that are going to have to contract to get out of this situation. Now, when that happens and we're confronted with stress, that's good. Now, some other reactions that take place. Cholesterol. Your body, during insulin resistance, your liver and all, basically what happens is your HDLs and LDLs. HDLs are the happy ones, the good ones. LDLs are the lousy ones, the bad ones. Okay? So now we need some cholesterol for the changes that occur within hormone changes to produce muscle and things like that. So basically what happens is you stop producing a lot of the receptor sites on the HDL, so they don't bind with the LDLs. So now you have more LDL cholesterol floating around the blood. Okay? Now what else happens? When you have a lot of insulin resistance, because more insulin is produced, you excrete more calcium in your urine. Magnesium is decreased. Magnesium causes the decrease in the contraction of muscle. Blood vessels are muscle. So you want more contraction, so you don't produce as much magnesium. Right? There's a reason why I'm going through all of these things. That's what happens in a flight or fight response. The reason why all that happens is we need a lot of energy. We need to respond very quickly. Our sympathetic nervous system is stimulated. Now, what don't you need during these times of fight or flight? You don't need to worry about digestion because you're not going to be eating. So digestive function is suppressed. Sexual function, suppressed. You're not going to have to worry about that, right? So basically, all the reactions that require us to stay alive are increased. All the reactions that aren't really important for survival at that given time are suppressed. So we get out of that situation, and it's good that we had that stress response. Because if we were lethargic and not moving fast, we don't have a lot of oxygen, our muscles didn't have a lot of energy, we wouldn't move. So we need those things. So we get out of that situation, and what happens? No more tiger? Relax. Our body balances out. We have a healthy response. We have adapted to the changes that occurred inside and outside the body, and our body starts to balance out again. Okay? All those functions that were increased, decrease. All those functions that were inhibited, increase. We balance out. Healthy response. So stress is healthy. Right? Now, the problem is the stress that we have today is much different than the stress we had 10,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago. See, they basically had three functions that they had to carry out, right? They had to eat, they had to hunt, and they had to reproduce. That's it. Not too bad. We have to, gosh, I don't even know. Where do I start? We have to do a lot, right? But the bottom line is we live with stress. Stress is meant to keep us alive, make us grow. You work out, you stress your muscles for a positive outcome. See, stress is supposed to be an event. It's not supposed to be a stressful life, a stressful job, a stressful marriage, a stressful existence. See, that's how we live, with stress, involved in stress every day. Now, what happens when we live with chronic stress over years and years and years and years? Remember all those processes? Okay? We want to get blood, we want to have sugar released from the liver sent through the blood, right? This is a flight or flight response, but now we live in that fight or flight response. So you have higher blood glucose levels. Okay? You have a decrease in the HDL-LDL ratio. So you have more lousy LDL cholesterol in the blood. You have more calcium that's being secreted in the urine and not taken up in the bone. You have less magnesium that's produced, so you have more muscle contraction of especially blood vessels, smooth muscles. You need more energy, so your body says, what else has used this energy? Glucose, fat. So let's hold on to it. Let's store it. Right? Men store it here, women store it in other areas. Right? Now what happens over years and years and years? High blood pressure. Less calcium in the bone, osteoporosis. More blood glucose, type 2 diabetes. Right? Less magnesium, which means more constriction of blood vessels. You take blood and put it through a big vessel like this, plenty of room. Blood pressure is how much pressure there is on the interior lining of that artery. So you take an artery and you decrease it, same amount of blood, it's going to be exerting more pressure on the internal wall of that artery, high blood pressure. Okay. Higher fat stores. Does that sound like anybody who's depressed? Anybody who lives with stress, anxiety? See, now we have high blood pressure, so we have to treat it, right? We treat it. We have osteoporosis, we have to treat it. We have diabetes, we have to treat it. We have higher fat stores. We have a solution to that. New Year's resolutions, right? Another 3 weeks. January, right? We go on a diet, and there's no shortage of diets, right? So now we're in this cycle of treating all these conditions because that's what we do. We have a baseline. We say, okay, we're not in that baseline, so our numbers, our levels, or what have you, our physiology has changed, and now what happens? We have to treat those conditions. Now, I'm not saying that some of those conditions aren't conditions in and of themselves, not related to stress, but see, we see stress as an event, a person, a place. Stress is a health condition. See, stress simply is your body's physiology changing in response to its environment, internally and externally. Now we have all these conditions, and we treat those conditions as if they were, in and of themselves, separate entities from stress. See, those conditions, your body's not going to do anything to harm itself. Those conditions are simply how your body's adapting to the changes that occur. Diabetes, right? If we teach people how to eat right, and we teach people how to properly deal with the things that cause stress, you can probably eliminate the majority of diabetes. Right? How many people have osteoporosis? Especially women, right? Women deal with things more than men, or deal with them differently than men, right? They hold on to things. Men, we can't remember to bring the milk home, let alone remember to keep something in our minds for a long period of time, right? But osteoporosis, right? Higher in women. See, we treat all those conditions when the reality is that's your body's response to stress in a vast majority of time, vast majority of cases. See, the body's not going to do anything to harm itself. It's simply adapting physiologically the way it should for a circumstance or an instance or an event, not for a lifetime. You know, I think it's interesting. I'll wake up in the morning, I'll hear my wife in the bathroom, doing her hair. Oh, I can't believe I'm having a bad hair day. Okay, well, sweetie, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. You got another 12 hours to go in public. You're going to have an entire day of bad hair day just because you define it that at 7 o'clock in the morning. She's stressed about that. So every time she looks in the rearview mirror, looking at her hair, oh, look at my hair, right? So that's an example of chronic stress, right? That whole day is going to be stressful because the way she looked at her hair in the morning. See, the way we define things determines our response. If everyone had it our way, that would be great, but it's not going to happen. See, why does someone stress us? Why does an event stress one person and not the other? It's the definition or the meaning you give to that event. What is the difference between, what is it, the 7th of December? Between now and December 31st? Between now and June? Okay, it's the end of the year. We have jobs that maybe reports are due and things. But how is it any different? We have a holiday, just like we have a holiday in June, right? Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. It's the meaning we give to that event. And then how we respond to that meaning. My wife always says she does all her Christmas shopping in like October and early November. Can't stand going to the mall. She says it's the worst time to go to the mall because everybody's stressed out. Everybody's so rude. Everybody's cutting everyone off. We've got to, honking your horns. This is how we respond to a holiday, right? What's the difference between this holiday and July 4th? Anybody in a bad mood going to the stores July 4th? Buying burgers, buying, buying all the other celebratory necessities, right? No, everybody's in a good mood. But now everybody's stressed. Why? Just because we define this time of year as stressful. Simply because of that. Deadline. But why is the deadline stressful for some people and not others? Right? I talked to my sister the other day. She goes, oh, I'm so stressed out. I haven't done any Christmas shopping. This weekend is my mom's 70th birthday, so we're having a surprise party. So she goes, this weekend's out. can't go shopping, right? So now I only have 1 weekend before Christmas. The kids are going to be off of school the week. And, I told my wife, I'm like, gosh, my sister's really stressed out. She goes, well, she should have just done it earlier. Well, that's right. See, it's stressful because she didn't plan on what was going to happen. See? Getting to work is stressful if you leave at 10 of 9 and it takes you 20 minutes to get here. Simple. I always think it's interesting, and this kind of is off the... I love talking to folks, my grandfather's generation, the World War II generation, I guess, the greatest generation as it's called. They're so simple. My grandfather would say, I would go up to my grandpa and say, gosh, my foot hurts. Where? Right underneath here. He goes, or on the top where my laces are. It's bothering me. He goes, well, you don't walk on that side, so don't worry about it. I think of that when I think of people in the morning. Now, I've had coffee twice in my life, so I'm not a coffee drinker, so I don't mean to step on anyone's toes. But I always think it's interesting. People in the morning, don't talk to me until I have my coffee. So, well, why do you drink coffee? We have this conversation. Well, how can you not drink coffee? Blah, blah, blah. It wakes me up. So we'll just go to bed earlier. See, it's just like an event. Why is it stressful? Because you say it is. Why is a project stressful? Because you define it as such. Now, what's interesting is, into a little neurology here, your brain is what perceives its environment. Okay? So your brain starts the response to things that you denote as stressful. Now, that's part of your brain called the limbic system, but within the limbic system, there's a certain part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. There's a left side and the right side. Your left side is responsible for happy feelings, feeling good, positive emotions. Your right side is responsible for negative feelings, negative emotions. Okay? Now, your brain has something called neuroplasticity. What does that mean? Neuro, meaning your brain, your nervous system. Plasticity. It can be molded and formed. Okay, you can shape it, so to speak. Now, when you take in information, it gets processed through your brain. One of the ways you process it is through your limbic system. So it determines your response. If your prefrontal cortex, the left side, the happy side, right, I call it the loosey-goosey side, that's how I remember it, the left side. If that part of your brain is processing information all the time, that's going to be the predominant pathway your thoughts go. If your right side is processing information at a higher rate, that's the pathway your thoughts will take. So whether you have predominant thoughts of happiness, positive emotions, or negative emotions, that is dictated by the pathways that you start to create. When you see something, what is your initial response? Do you have a positive response to it, or right away do you put up a roadblock and start naming all the things and all the reasons why you can't do it, can't be done, can't happen? How do you respond? Neuroplasticity means you can mold your brain. You can change that process. That's what's important. There's another term called allostasis. That is the load that your brain has to take in. So the amount of information your body has to take in and cause change. If you have a high processing rate, okay, like if you have a lot of bricks in your backpack, so to speak, that's going to tax your body. The higher the more you tax your brain, okay, the more negative the response will be. We have 60,000 thoughts a day. I saw your question, where's he going with it? We have 60,000 thoughts a day. So the more you tax your brain, the higher that load will be. The more bricks in your backpack, that wears you down. You know what that creates? An automatic diversion to the right side of your brain. That's why they say meditation, times of silence are important. Create silence. That automatically starts to stimulate the left side of your prefrontal cortex. That positive emotion. Feelings of happiness. Now, the good thing is, you can change your neuroplasticity, you can change the way your brain processes information. See, what will happen is your brain gets sensitized. When it's stimulated enough in a certain way, that's the way it'll start to automatically go in this direction or that direction. So if you have more negative thoughts, negative emotions, and the right side of your brain is constantly being, the right part of your prefrontal cortex is predominantly the area that's being stimulated, your body will automatically become sensitized to that. It will automatically start sending information that way. Because that's the way you always go. But you can start to change that. How? We're going to talk about that. One way is called an affirmation. What you say to yourself on a daily basis. The words you say to yourself. Okay? I've shared this with you before. I say an affirmation in the morning. Okay, when I wake up in the morning. It goes something like this. I am handsome. I am good looking and sexy. I am strong and... This is meant to build me up, by the way. You shouldn't laugh at me during this. But a simple thing like that. Now, do you think I have a bad hair day? Do you think I look bad? No. But seriously, what you say to yourself. If the conversations you had with yourself were the conversations you had with friends, how many people would really want to call you up and talk to you? Probably not many. Right? We beat ourselves up so much. Right? We put more stress on ourselves by the way we talk to ourselves. 60,000 thoughts a day. Of all those thoughts, of all the things we think about and stress about, have anxiety about, 40% of the things will never happen. 30% of the things happen in the past and cannot be changed. You know what's interesting? Your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and what you say reality is. You can think of an event that happened in the past and have that same response physiologically as if you were actually going through that event right here and now. You ever listen to a song on the radio? You ever think about an event that you're going to and you get so excited about it? Your physiology changes. Your posture changes. Your mood changes. You ever think about something that might not be a happy situation. You're anxious about it. Your heartbeat starts increasing. Your shoulders start increasing. Right? Your physiology changes. There's something called psychoneuroimmunology, psychoneurophysiology. Your brain changes your physiology. Your brain can change your immune system just by your thoughts. So 30% of the things happen in the past can't be changed. 12% are illogical. Okay, it's 12:30 right now. Let's see, I'm finishing up at 6 o'clock tonight. I have to pick up the kids at 6:30, then we have to go to the basketball practice at 7, but my wife wants me to stop at U-Crops when I leave and when I get home. Then I have to stop over at someone's house, drop off some information after I pick the kids up on the way to basketball. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that on time because every time I go to U-Crops, I go to that one counter and it's always backed up. But I'm thinking about all these things that are so illogical that haven't even happened yet. It's 12:30. I'm thinking about things that are going to happen 6 hours from now. That might not even happen. But that's what we think about. Of all the things we focus on, think about, are anxious about, stress about, of all those 60,000 thoughts, only 2% we can positively influence. 6% are going to happen no matter what. 2% we can positively influence. That frees up a lot of time. So, how you interpret your world, how you think, and what you say to yourself has huge implications on how you deal with, how you interpret the world. Stress. See, if you're constantly affirming to yourself, I am organized, I am punctual and on time, I am a great learner, a great listener, I'm a great problem solver, I work with a cohesive group of people that are here with a common mission and goal. You know, those things, if you say those things to yourself, say before you leave your car in the morning and get to your office, and get wherever you are, that's going to produce a different mindset as you prepare for your day. How do you talk to yourself about your relationships? First and foremost, your relationship with yourself. Do you build yourself up, or do you tear yourself down? What do you say about your husband, your wife, boyfriend, girlfriend? How do you define that relationship? And what do you say about that relationship on a daily basis? Oh, she stresses me out. He drives me crazy. Right? Well, you're only going to affirm, what you're talking about is going to be affirmed to you in reality if you say it enough. Because again, your brain is going to go in a right or a left direction in terms of your emotions, your thoughts. This starts early on, with children. I have 3 kids. My son just had his 8th birthday, so 8, 5, and 4. Okay? And I remember as a child, my parents used to say things like, okay, Dad, I'm going to take this glass and I'm going to walk across the room. Don't spill it. Don't drop that glass. Don't break it. Okay? I can never find my keys. Where are my keys? Can never find them. Who took them? Right? Don't be too big for your britches. I'm in a game or a match. Men don't cry. Boys don't cry. Suck it up. Right? Women's place is in the home. Right? We hear things like this. That starts the process of how we talk to ourselves, how we see ourselves, how we see our world. Money's the root of all evil. My sister, she's an artist. Money's not important until she wants to go buy a car or until she wants to buy a house. Now all of a sudden there's a different definition of money. Maybe money's not so bad. Maybe enough money to buy that house would be pretty good. Right? But all her life, she said, oh, money's not important. She was surrounding herself with people like this. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's how she defined it. And then it caused stress later on because she couldn't buy the car she wanted. Right? Luckily, she married somebody that had a different thought process. So now she has a car and a house. But how do you talk to yourself? And that starts with kids early on. That started for us early on. My parents didn't know any different. My dad, we used to have the CB radios, right? We go on vacation like a caravan of cars and we talk to each other not through text or cell phone, but through the CB radio. My dad's handle, his name for the CB on the CB radio, if people wanted to talk to him, was Molasses. And not because he tasted good, but because he was always late. Right? So do you think my dad was early? No. Because every time people talk, hey, Molasses, that was his nickname. They were affirming to him that you will be late. Where's Mike? Oh, Molasses, he's always late. He had no desire to be early because it would cause more problems for himself probably. They'd have to rename him. Right? But he affirmed with his actions and with what he talked about and said to himself that he was going to be late. I was talking to a lady yesterday in the office. She has a problem with her foot, her ankle. And she said, yeah, I basically just came to the conclusion that my foot's always going to hurt. Really? Why? It's hurt for so long. So, okay, this lady's probably in her early 50s. I don't know, say she lives another 50 years. So for the next 50 years, she's getting ready for her foot to hurt every day. I thought, that's kind of interesting. But that's what we say. We don't think about the power of the words that we say. In our office, when you call our office for an appointment, you will never hear, great, I have you down at 2. I'll put you down in the book at 3. No, you're scheduled for an appointment. We have you scheduled for, nobody wants to be put down. When we answer the phone, hello, Albanese Chiropractic, this is so-and-so, I can help you. I might not be the person with the answer, but I can help you. I will find an answer. Simple words like that have meaning. Right? So how do you talk to yourself? Affirmations are very important. How you define yourself. Mission statements. A mission statement for your life. How you define yourself. We're not just plopped down here. There's a reason for you being here. On earth. Right? Most people have heard of the book Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren. Right? But what is your purpose? What is the reason for you being here? As an individual, as a wife, a husband, a coworker. What are you here for? What is your greater purpose? You define who you are as a person, and it gives meaning to your life. That gives power and strength. And then what you say to yourself on a daily basis gives you meaning, gives you power and strength. Now you start to produce different mindset, different responses. That person cut me off. That's fine. I'm calm, cool, and collective in all situations. I don't react. I respond appropriately. Okay, I'm not going to take criticism the same way now as I did before. I'll listen to what people are saying instead of listen to, well, let me tell you how you should do this. Okay, I'll erase the should and listen to what you're saying as constructive. My response is going to be different now. The person that cut me off, not a big deal. I'm calm, cool, and collective. I don't respond right away. I interpret what's happening. So now my response is going to be very different. Imagine if you had that mindset talking to your spouse, right? It would free up a lot of time because you wouldn't have to go on and on about what you talked about, right? But how you interpret your world is based on your definition and your meaning you give it. I talked about conversations and words. Words have meaning, right? Because we define them as such. But how do you talk to yourself? Anger, desire, fear, grief, apathy, guilt, blame, despair, regret, anxiety, craving, hate, scorn. Negative connotations with those words. What type of words do you talk to yourself with? You use words like reason, love, joy, peace, bliss, serenity, reverence, understanding, forgiveness, optimism, willingness, trust, neutrality. Right? If those were the words that predominated our thought process when we talk to others and about ourselves to ourselves, wow, that would bring about a different response, a different way to interpret the world. Because those words that are negative bring about a physiological change in our body. Because what happens? You're always thinking about, oh, I hate this, I hate that. You know, I'm always thinking about blaming others, fear of the unknown, fear of what I need to do, grief, people that hold grief for a long time, right? What does that do? Brings your brain, sensitizes your brain to say, I'm always on the right side. And if you're always on the right side, stress is right there all the time. That's the health implications of what you say to yourself. That's the health implications of chronic stress. Stress is meant to protect us, keep us alive, respond or react to a situation that is possibly causing harm to our lives. Chronic stress is unhealthy because we live with those reactions in our body for our entire life. And we wonder why. People come in the office all the time. I don't know if I have it with me. People in the office come in the office, and this is what they carry with them. They carry sheets that look like this. This is people in their 30s. I had a patient who's 22 bring me a sheet like this. 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Here, these are the medications I take. I can't remember them all, so I just write them down. Okay. This is not health. And you know what so many people say? You know, it wasn't until I was like 60 I started taking medication. I've always been healthy. Really? You think it just happened that day? No, it's a process that takes years to develop. It takes years to be healthy, years to get sick. Right? And then we start treating the sickness as if it's a problem in and of itself, when it may just be the result of our lifestyle. Heart disease, cancers, death from prescription medication, strokes, lung disease, diabetes, suicides. Number one drug, antidepressants. Chronic habitual way of thinking and responding to your world in a negative manner. How can that make you happy? Right? Causes depression. So, stress is not a condition of a person or a project or a time of year. It's your response to those things. I see this a lot, especially during this time of year. I did a talk at a company, an insurance company, oddly enough, right? Lady came up to me, and I've been taking care of her for a long time. And she said to me, you know, is there any herb or vitamin, anything I can take to help lower blood pressure? I said, well, tell me what's going on. I've known her for a long time. We've taken care of her. And I've never known her blood pressure to be high. She said, well, I'm borderline high blood pressure, and they want to treat it with medication. I said, okay. Sure, I can find an herb or something like that. But let me ask you, is that any different than taking a medication? You've never had high blood pressure before. Now it's borderline. Tell me what's going on at work, at your home. Those are the two places we spend most of our day. And then she started spilling everything out, right? Stressful this, stressful that, this and that. People I work with, all this stuff. I said, okay, if we can come up with a way to take that list, that is your stress list, and make it a positive list, things that you like about these people, things you like about your job, right? Maybe your response will be different and your blood pressure will take care of itself. Because I don't think you have a blood pressure problem. I said, I think you have a mental problem. I said, you're not mental. Now, I had good rapport with this lady, so I was able to say that, okay? Right? I had very good rapport, but I wouldn't say that. But I said, I think you have a mental problem, and she kind of looked at me. And the reason I said that was I wanted to change her thought process, because she was so focused on her high blood pressure. Because she said, what do you mean I have a mental problem? I said, okay, I think you have an interpretation problem of your world. So we worked on that. We came up with different things, different anchors. She did a lot of talking on the phone and things like that. So we came up with things like, okay, when things get stressful, you pick up the phone, say it's a stressful call. You pick up the phone, after you hang it up, you pick it up, and you say, okay, rewind, redo, hang it up. So she rewound and redid that call in her mind and then hung up the phone. There was no one there, but that was her anchor. Change her thought process. Right? I said, make a happy phone call. She goes, what do you mean? I go, just dial a number and talk to yourself. Right? Just do something to change your thought process. So we came up with all these things. And what was interesting is her blood pressure started decreasing. Then she said, wow, if this works for me, what can it do for this group of people I work with that are all stressed? I said, I don't know. Why don't you try it out? So they all came up with key phrases that everyone shared with each other. Like one lady had running, Randy, and something else. She loved to run, so that was a good mental state to have. Randy was her newborn little baby, and there were a couple of R's. So when she was stressed or looking anxious, people would walk up to her and go, running Randy, blah, 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 whatever the words were. And they'd start to laugh about, oh, I know. They start to laugh about, but she would go there in their mind, just for that second, and would change her thought process. Well, everyone in her group, I think there were like 10, 12 people, they all had those words. And then they made up little affirmations for themselves. They didn't share those, but those were the things that they would say. And she said the whole office changed. The atmosphere within that office changed completely. She said because everybody knew what buttons to push to change the thought process. See, not only did it have an effect on her to decrease her blood pressure, it was simply, see, she would have taken high blood pressure medication. She said, they want me to take it forever. I said, well, sure. Once you have high blood pressure, you always do. That's what the understanding is. I can change the way I eat, I can exercise, and that can help. But she had to change her thought process. So when she did, everything balanced out. She came back to a state of balance. And I know if she was in that thought process for years and years and years, and it had an effect on her blood pressure, it was going to have an effect on other things too. You talk to someone who's been taking blood pressure medication for a long time, chances are they're on high cholesterol medication. Because it's the same physiological process. Right? So anyway, you come up with things like affirmations for yourself. How do you talk to yourself? First day, I looked in my pocket before and I didn't have them. I don't know why. I was in a rush getting here or leaving my house this morning. But I have affirmations that I laminate, put on little cards. And I pick them up during the day and I say them to myself. Things are tough or things are going a little crazy. Let me say this to myself. Reiterate who I am, what I do, why I do it, and my purpose. Right? Best time to say an affirmation is first thing in the morning and right before you go to bed. Because those are the times that you start to create your day. Right? Your night's sleep, those are the last thoughts you want to have. Turn off the news. You don't need to see who's on the news and what happened in Richmond. Nothing's going to be positive. You'll find out about the stuff you need to. Turn off the TV at night and say those things right before you go to bed. Give yourself 30 minutes of just doing something, reading a good book, listening to some good music, drawing, writing, whatever you want to do in a constructive, positive way. Because then that's how you're going to enter your sleep. Why do people not sleep? Because their mind doesn't stop. Right? And that's the way you start your day, with an affirmation. You start to create your day. Matt Lauer, he'll be there. Don't worry about watching him. All right? Try it for a week. Just 1 week and see what it does. It'll also free up a lot of time. Okay? Because most people don't have time to get things done. Well, if you turn the TV off a little bit in the morning and in the evening, you'll find you have extra time. Right? That's a bonus. Okay? Any questions? I know I got into a little bit of detail with the brain and physiological responses to stress, because I think it's real important that you understand that stress isn't just stress. It's this stressful time of year. Think about how many times of year are stressful for you, and all of a sudden you have the entire year that's stressful on some level. So if you can decrease that, not only will you increase your health, because your stress and health are directly in proportion to one another. The lower the stress, the greater the health. Higher the stress, the lower your health. So if you can find ways to change your thought process, okay, you can actually have positive impact on your health, but also the quality of your life and the longevity of your life. People who are happier, have better relations with themselves, are involved in groups, whatever, they live longer. They're connected to more people. So we're all live people, right? So the more connections you have with life, the better your life is. Well, they always say, stay connected. Well, it's true. First, the connection starts with yourself. I see this a lot, especially during this time of year. People are so disconnected and so crazy. You know, we adjust people in the office, and, you know, with your working as a chiropractor with the nervous system, you know, we're adjusting the spine, we're stimulating the nervous system, and we change some of those physiological reactions that happen during stress with adjustments. You know, I can help people have an impact on blood pressure and, you know, insulin levels, balance out insulin levels, and just, you know, there's studies that are done with EEGs connecting to your brain activity. After adjustments, your brain activity changes. The way your brain interprets information changes. And I can adjust you all day long, but you also have to do things to change your thought process. You know, it's like a medication. You can take a medication to change your high blood pressure, but the mechanism that caused that high blood pressure, that's why when people go off high blood pressure medication, their blood pressure goes up. Because your body is saying, okay, let's change blood pressure, but the blood pressure mechanism is still there, causing high blood pressure. You're just reading it differently. So you go off the medication, boom, it goes up. Go off cholesterol medication. My cholesterol went up. I have to go back on the cholesterol medication. Your body gets used to that, but the mechanisms that cause those changes are still there. That's why it's important to change your thought process and look at your lifestyle. You know, there's other variables. Today we're just talking about stress, so I just focus on the stress. I had a fellow I take care of for years. He came in the office, he said, my blood pressure is like 180 over something. I said, man, Jeff, that's how you need to go to your primary doctor right now. They put him on high blood pressure medication. He came back a couple weeks later. He said, I said, how's your blood pressure? He goes, oh, it's normal now. You know, I said, oh, what happened? He goes, well, they put me on this high blood pressure medication, blah, blah, blah. I said, Jeff, you got to find out what's causing the high blood pressure. Because he had normal blood pressure, right? Long story short, I said, go to a kidney doctor, get your kidneys checked. He's like, why? I said, that can regulate blood pressure. You know, they'll also check your adrenal glands, fight or flight response, your adrenal glands, right? Long story short, he had an aneurysm in his nephrotic artery, right? That was causing high blood pressure. Had he just treated this blood pressure with high blood pressure medication, he would have died at some point. And it would have been from the possibly the aneurysm, right? Bursting. So they took care of that in a one-day outpatient procedure operation for him, or 2 days, something like that. And miraculously, his blood pressure went down. So that's why it's important to look at the big picture of things. Don't just treat a condition. Look at, well, and that's my interpretation of health. You know, that when I take care of folks, I don't just look at people as a back pain or a headache or a stomach problem or, you know, allergies. I look at, well, why are you eliciting these symptoms? This is healthy. These are the signs and symptoms you have. How can we bring you over to health? Not how can we treat this symptom or this condition. Let's see why your body is exhibiting those conditions, those symptoms. Because there's a reason for that. Your body's not going to do anything to harm itself, so it's responding appropriately to different stresses. Let's figure out how we can get you healthy. In my office, we don't treat sickness. If I treated sickness or disease, that would be doing people a disservice in my office. I want to help them get healthy. And that's why we have programs in the office, some of which we've done here on eating well, thinking well, moving well, exercise, living well. We do programs on all this because I want to educate people, well, not educate people, I want to help them become informed about all areas of health. Because anything can cause stress. We've talked about the stress of nutrition or poor nutrition before in other talks. Those are forms of stress also. So I appreciate your time. I think this is the first time I haven't gone over, so I try to refrain from keep going and going. If anyone has any questions, let me know. We have a packet of information that we're going to hand out that has ways to write affirmations and thought process. A lot of those things that we talked about are in this packet. My recommendation is don't read the packet and say, okay, great, everything's going to change on January 1st. Change one thing, just one thing. Do that for a period of a month. Change another thing, and then another thing. Do it in small little segments. Because if you can do something for 22 days, you create a habit. And that just becomes part of what you do. So change takes time, but change can happen in an instant. As soon as you decide you're going to change. And maybe all this did was reiterate what you're already doing. Hey, great, I'm doing a lot of great things. Picked up a couple things. Or maybe you need to make bigger changes. But if you have any questions, on the packet is my email address. You can email me. If anyone is interested in coming in the office, we do some tests to determine stress within the body. That starts within your nervous system. These are computer evaluations that we do in the office to measure your nervous system to see how is your body processing information. You know, are the stomach problems I'm having, or the headaches I'm having, or the back pain I'm having. Is that a response to something other than foods I eat, or the people around me causing headaches? Maybe it's your body not being able to process things properly because there's interference. So that's one way we measure that interference within the nervous system to help you respond and interpret your world in a healthier manner. So if anyone is interested in coming to the office, you can let Kim know we have an opportunity through the end of the year, the next couple of weeks, for you to do that. So I appreciate your time. I thank you for being here. If you have any questions, let me know. Certainly you can get in touch with me, and I'm available. Thank you.